The word that I've been looking for this entire time, euphoria. It's such an obvious word because it's a word that comes up so frequently in my life. It's a word that I base my entire trading bias, my entire trading sentiment around. Is euphoria. When everyone is euphoric, when everyone is blinded by winning, when everyone is high off of this feeling of success, this feeling of achievement, like you've actually done something. And that's how I've, for the longest time, based my trading, is when everyone is euphoric, I sell. And that word's come up recently today because my friend is out in Nepal currently, and I listened to his talk about how he now feels like he's realized his like multi-year long journey to get to where he is. He's worked his arse off to be where he is now in Nepal, in the Annapurna circuit, doing what he's dreamt of doing for however long. And the word he used was euphoria. And in his talk he started crying because of that feeling of euphoria, that feeling of accomplishment. And it got me, I'm doing it now again. It got me teary-eyed. I'm not sure if I cried. I think I cried a little bit. It's happening again now, for fuck's sake. Because that feeling he has, I can relate to so strongly. Because that's the feeling I felt when I first went traveling, was that euphoria, that I've made it moment. But it goes a bit deeper than that for me. And this is the talk I've not wanted to do. I get quite anxious just even thinking about this, and this one is not going to be easy for me to do, so bear with me. I've realised over the best part of this year, and I realised it while I was, the first comings of realisation was the beginning of 2025, when I decided to come home from my travels. And then when I went to Japan, I started solidifying these thoughts. And that time between now and back then, I feel like I've just pondered on these thoughts for so long, and it's been built up within me for so long. I almost became someone I didn't want to be in 2024. And I want to talk about this now, and I don't really want to have to talk about it again. I've realised, listening back to some of my talks, I'm a bit I'm kind of funny when it comes to talking about money. I'm pretty reserved. I kind of skirt around it, and I I don't like talking about money. But I'm going to talk a lot about money in this talk today, just to, I guess, just get everything off my chest. In 2024, at the end of 2023, I'd just split up with my girlfriend. And my biggest escapism, or my two biggest escapisms was, the first, the gym, which was a new one. And second of all was trading, specifically crypto trading. Actually, no, to be fair, I did do quite a bit of stock trading back then as well. It consumed my life. That first quarter of 2024, kind of end of 2023 as well, it consumed me. I was up till like fucking 2-3 o'clock in the morning, learning, making as many mistakes as I possibly could. And I guess it kind of goes back even further than that. I've never said this to anyone, but it's something I wrote down in my journal back in 2023. I left school early. I left college early, not only because I wasn't happy in what I was doing, and I figured I would have a much happier, smoother life if I left college to do something different. But I also left because I knew I could make trading work. I knew I could, if I worked hard enough, I'd become successful. And I hate to say this, but my driving factor was becoming rich. And I find that so cringe to say. I cringe just saying that now. I fucking hate it. Fucking hate it. But that was my goal. That's all I wanted. And I left college with the intention of working like a motherfucker to make trading work. And the thing I wrote in my journal, which I actually fucking cried at reading earlier, was I gambled my life on it. I left college. Fuck, man. I left college with no A-levels and a few GCSEs, no degree, no backup plan. I mean, I'm like probably one of the most unemployable people on the fucking planet. Well, I know I'm not. But particularly at the time, that is how I felt. And so that pent up fire in me just knew I had to do something. And I fucking didn't. Until I split up with my girlfriend. And then that fire was roaring. I was just... At that point in my life, I felt very, 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 very fucking lonely. And I knew I had to channel my anger, my frustration. I knew I had to distract myself. My way of doing that was dedicating my fucking every ounce of my mental space, my being to trading. And I'll kind of cut the story short there. I don't need to get into the complete details. But in 2024, that first quarter, I made the most ridiculous sums of money I think I still can't even fathom it now, to be honest. Did I get a little bit lucky? Yeah, probably. But I also put myself in a position to get lucky. I still worked for it. Did I work as hard as a fucking brain surgeon or a lawyer? Probably not, no. And I saw a screenshot of March the 8th. What am I on about? February the 8th of 2024, and I got it on like a 2 years ago today thing, and I got that a couple days ago. It's currently like the 11th. Oh no, it's the 13th of Feb. I got a 2 years ago thing. And I took a screenshot of my daily P&L, my profit loss for that day. And it said $230,000, which I think is about £160,000. And I was euphoric. I didn't realize it at the time, but that feeling, that daily high, waking up every day, hitting those sorts of fucking numbers consistently, I was euphoric. I thought I literally ruled the world. I thought I fucking completed this shit. But I hadn't. I hit certain goals that I wanted to hit, but ultimately I felt like I'd achieved what I wanted to achieve, and so I took my foot off the gas and I kind of stopped trading for a bit. It's also worth noting in December of 2023, I pretty much spent every last penny I had on booking a trip to Thailand. And so I knew I had to make it work. I knew I was going to quit my job in May, and I knew I had to work my fucking arse off to make a little bit of money to go traveling and quit my job. I didn't know how much I was going to make at the time, but I looked back at my accounts and my figures. I'll give you the low rundown. In 2022, I ran up a £250 portfolio into around £16,000, and I would have been 16 or 17 at the time. I pretty much lost the entire thing. I remember I lost that entire thing several times over the course of 2022 and 2023. In 2023, I kind of just sat on my hands. I had obviously left school and I was earning good money, and I pretty much put every single last penny of my paycheck I had available to me into Solana, the cryptocurrency, and boy did I make a fucking killing on that. Holy shit. And I basically, some accounts I ran like 600 quid up into low six-figure sums, and then obviously some 5-figure sums turn into 6, and yeah, just truly fucking insane. And I just completely lost the concept of money. I was moving like tens of thousands of pounds around in my wallets through these exchanges with not a care in the world, like they were quite literally just numbers on a screen. And I didn't realize how valuable that money was. And I never grew up with money, far from it. My parents, we nearly had to sell the house several times because my parents were in so much debt that they couldn't afford to live in the area we live, and we would, yeah. Money didn't come easy as I grew up. So I don't know why I just completely lost the sense. And while I was traveling, even before I was traveling, I had several situationships with girls, one of which was with my ex-girlfriend that I won't get into that. That was a terrible mistake. This money made me feel like I could literally do anything. I'd literally completed the game. And man, that just makes me feel so fucking... I hate saying that. It makes me sick that I even thought like that. And it was while I was traveling, I made a bet. Well, first of all, I'd spent almost $2,000 for a week in this villa actually no, I spent 2 weeks. I spent $4,000 in this villa on a little island in Thailand. And I made a bet with one of my friends in crypto. And it was in the token amount, not the like fiat pound dollar amount. And I lost the bet, and I remember sending him the amount it was and then checking to see what it actually was worth in like fiat money, and realised it was like £5,000 or £6,000. And I think it was at that exact moment I remembered that like a year ago I didn't even have like a third of that amount of money in my fucking bank account. And I quite literally just said to myself, what the fuck am I doing? What the fuck am I doing? This is ludicrous. This is stupid. I was paying rent every month. In fact, I paid 6 months rent up front, which was like $13,000 or something, because I didn't actually have an income, and I couldn't prove to the estate agents that I actually had any money, so I had to just fucking pay them up front. So I'd paid for that. I was looking at getting certain cars and fucking watches and buying a house and shit. And it was when I got to Malaysia, I was driving around in a go-kart, and I felt like I was on top of the world. And I quite literally thought, like, this is not who I want to be. This is not the kind of person I want to be. I'd revolved my entire, I don't want to say personality, but my whole being, my whole thought process, my whole sense was around money. And I hated it. I hated myself for that. I was disgusted by it. I was literally the sort of people I didn't like, I didn't want to be. And I quite literally thought that because I had all this money, and the point I'm going to get onto now is because I had overworked myself so hard in that period, I kind of squashed my breakup woes into a little ball and buried it deep, or at least tried to bury it deep in fucking money. And it was only when I came to my senses, came to my realizations, that I hadn't processed my breakup at all. And then of course it all hit me like a year later, which was just wrong. But that's what euphoria does to you. I was so euphoric. It was like I was high. It was like I was drunk. It was like I wasn't conscious. And so I decided to come home from my travels just before Christmas. And the couple months that followed were fucking tough. Tough as fuck. And I didn't say anything to anyone, and I don't know why. I just let myself struggle, and I don't know why. And I spent pretty much the whole of last year pondering on who I actually want to be. I realised I wasn't materialistic, I didn't want to be. And then when I went to Japan, I realised their culture, their way of living was so simple, and I realised that's what I want to be. Japan was a blessing in disguise. And I know I've spoken about what then happened in April, but that kind of then just topped it off. That felt like punishment for who I almost became. It was like April was my reality check. I learned a lot last year. I learned a hell of a lot. And I learned a lot in 2024. But the one thing I've learned is euphoria is one of the most powerful drugs you can ever have.